It was the war that shook the world. 16 million lives lost, 70 million soldiers mobilized, and a conflict so brutal that the world was never the same again. Dark clouds gathered over Europe, the rumble of distant explosions echoing through the air as millions marched towards a destiny none could have foreseen. But how did World War I really begin? Was it just an accident of history, a chance encounter that spiraled out of control? Or was it the inevitable outcome of forces far greater than any one individual? We will examine the intricate web of alliances, the simmering tensions between nations, and the spark that ignited a global inferno. And most importantly, we will ask ourselves, what lessons can we learn from it today? What can we glean from the sacrifices made, the horrors endured, and the fragile peace that followed? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dive case studies. By the early 1900s, Europe was a continent on edge. Imagine a jungle teeming with predators, each vying for dominance, each suspicious of the other. That was Europe, a network of alliances, rivalries, and simmering resentments. The great powers, like caged animals, paced within their borders, their growls echoing across the continent. The arms race was in full swing. Battleships launched, armies expanded, new and terrible weapons forged. Historians often point to what they call the main causes of the war: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Militarism, the glorification of war, had infected the minds of many, making conflict seem not just necessary but noble. Alliances intended to deter aggression, instead created a house of cards, where one wrong move could bring the whole structure crashing down. Imperialism, the hunger for land and resources, fueled competition and distrust among the great powers. And nationalism, the intense pride in one's nation, often blinded people to the dangers of unbridled patriotism. On June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, a young nationalist named Gavrilo Princip fired two shots that would echo through history. Within weeks, the great powers of Europe were at war. Germany, fearing a war on two fronts, launched a daring but risky attack on France through neutral Belgium. This act, a violation of international law, shocked the world and forced Great Britain, guarantor of Belgian neutrality, into the war. What began as a swift and decisive conflict, a war that many believed would be over by Christmas, soon descended into a bloody stalemate. The Western Front, a jagged scar across the landscape of France and Belgium, became synonymous with a new and terrifying form of warfare: trench warfare. Millions of men faced each other across a narrow no-man's land, a desolate landscape of mud, barbed wire, and death. Here, soldiers lived in squalor, plagued by rats, lice, and the constant threat of enemy fire. The Battle of Verdun, a 10-month struggle for a few miles of ground, epitomized the brutality of the Western Front. "28 Americans sent shockwaves through the United States." By 1918, after 4 long years of war, the tide began to turn. Germany, bled white by years of fighting, facing dwindling resources and a relentless Allied advance, was on the verge of collapse. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., On the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent. The armistice, signed in a railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne, brought an end to the fighting. The Great War, the war to end all wars, was finally over. But victory came at a terrible cost. Millions lay dead, their bodies scattered across the battlefields of Europe. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was intended to ensure a lasting peace, but instead sowed the seeds of future conflict. The true cost of war extends far beyond the battlefield, leaving invisible scars on the landscape of nations and the lives of individuals. The economic impact of World War I was devastating. European economies, once the engines of global trade, lay in ruins. The war had consumed vast amounts of resources, leaving nations deeply in debt. The social impact of the war was equally profound. Women, who had taken on new roles in the workforce during the war, challenged traditional gender roles. Millions of veterans, scarred physically and psychologically by their experiences, struggled to reintegrate into civilian life. Technological advancements, spurred by the demands of war, left a mixed legacy, including significant strides in aviation and medical advancements. World War I stands as a stark reminder of the human capacity for both destruction and resilience. One of the most sobering lessons is that wars are never as short or as simple as we imagine them to be. The intricate web of alliances, intended to deter aggression, instead acted as a tripwire, dragging nation after nation into the conflict. What began as a regional dispute in the Balkans quickly escalated into a global conflagration. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a seemingly isolated event, triggered a chain reaction that plunged the world into darkness. Perhaps the most crucial lesson is that harsh peace treaties, rather than fostering reconciliation, can sow the seeds of future conflict. The Treaty of Versailles, while understandable in its desire to punish Germany, failed to address the underlying causes of the war. A century after the guns fell silent, the echoes of World War I still reverberate through time. The conflict reshaped the political map of Europe, leading to the creation of new nations like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. It also led to the collapse of empires, including the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires, fundamentally altering the balance of power in the world. The war's impact on military strategy and technology continues to shape modern warfare. Trench warfare, a defining feature of World War I, gave way to the development of new tactics and technologies, including tanks, airplanes, and more sophisticated artillery. The use of chemical weapons, a horrifying innovation of the war, left a lasting legacy, leading to international treaties banning their use. Most importantly, World War I serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. Outro: remembering the past, shaping the future. If you found this deep dive into the history of World War I insightful, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful history content. Your engagement helps us to share these important stories with a wider audience. What historical event should we cover next? We value your input, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue to explore the past together, uncovering the lessons that can help us build a better future. As we reflect on the events of World War I, let us remember the sacrifices made, the lessons learned, and the enduring importance of peace. The world today faces new challenges and conflicts, but the lessons of the past can serve as a guide. By understanding history, we can work to prevent future tragedies and build a more peaceful and just world. Subscribe now for more.